you have the confidence that you can accept the blow.
As a point of interest, none of my men wear protection in the groin. None.
After all, you wouldn't want your attacker to get injured.
That hurt my foot.
And we're live. We are live. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Big D After Dark, brought to you, of course, by BigDSoccer.com. I'm the host here at Nathan J. Hill. You can follow me at Nathan J. Hill on Twitter, and Jose there at El Chico Carmona. I think Tommy is going to join us here in a few minutes. He's running a bit late. But, hey, and Ishmael, unfortunately, has to do something called schoolwork. Whatever that is, but blessings to him. We know that's a real thing. So we're glad you're joining us here. Remind you, this is an interactive show. We love it when you share it. Spread the love and let other folks come on. Here comes Tommy right now. We're gonna. All right, hey, we're live. Hey, Tommy, you made it just in time. We're live.
Tommy.
Good. And there's our buddy Tommy LaBeouf at Tom_FC Dallas on Twitter. So yeah, this is an interactive show. We want to see your comments, your feedback, your questions from an interesting weekend of soccer. So FC Dallas did not play, but we had plenty to focus on. North Texas SC won its home opener 3-1 against Minnesota United FC2. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I've got some clips from the media availability before that match that we can get into, and then but also the United States men's national team. Since we last talked, fought to a hard draw at Azteca. Very good. Yeah. A very good result in a place that can be really tough. And then, as we saw last night, U.S. against Panama all but clinched their spot in Qatar with a 5-1 beat down, including goals from Paul Arriola and Jesus Ferreira. And we're going to start there. We're just going to start there and enjoy the moment. And we're always nervy about these things because of what happened 4 years ago when the U.S. just had to beat a minnow. And weren't able to get the job done. And so I understand the anxiety for fans because this is a team that hasn't always stepped up to the plate. But this team is also different. The coach is different. And as much as we can criticize Berhalter for some of his, some things that we maybe haven't liked how the team has played, he has got these youngsters to buy in, and we've seen development and growth from a lot of guys. And, of course, you have FC Dallas to thank for a lot of it. I mean, oh, man, a huge chunk of that men's national team roster are FC Dallas alums, academy kids. There's just a lot. FC Dallas is all over this. And so and last night with Paul Arriola and Jesus Ferreira, what great moments for them as well. So let's get into it. What were your reactions to that match?
Which one, the Panama match?
Let's go with the Panama match. Well, either one. Let's talk about Azteca, Mexico, and Panama.
Well, I think it was the perfect results. Really, I mean, I'm a proponent that they needed to start a strong enough team that was capable of getting a point in at least a point, and possibly win in Mexico in the Azteca. And that's exactly the kind of team they rolled out. And honestly, for large stretches of that match, the U.S. was the better team. You almost felt like they left points there. Like they could have walked out of there with 3 points. But I'm not complaining because honestly, a point on the road in CONCACAF is an excellent result. And then, of course, everyone was freaking out about Panama. And I mean, that win had FC Dallas signed all over it from Shaq Moore basically being forced to start at right back. And he was the third back, and you had Cannon with the COVID and Yedlin with the suspension, I believe. And so he steps in right off the bat. Then you had Zimmerman drawing that PK, the first PK. You had the initial shithousery from Ferreira when everyone was certain he was going to take the PK, but he was just basically making sure that they didn't go after Pulisic and try to get into his head. That was great, by the way. And then, of course, Arriola with the goal. I think he had an assist too, I believe. And Ferreira eventually with a goal. And I'm not even upset that he skied that one shot that was, behind him.
Right.
Because who cares? By that time the game was over, and really they were just having fun. I think you saw Panama come out knowing that the kids were basically had lost some interest down the stretch, and that's why they gave up the goal. But really, it was not really a thing. It's like it didn't matter by that time if they allowed a goal or not. They go to Costa Rica needing to lose by 5 goals or something like that, which is Costa Rica hasn't beaten anybody in CONCACAF by 5 goals since the 70s. And think of how hard that is to do in a region with so many minnows in it. So yeah, I'm not one of those people that's upset that they brought out the banner, because it's a foregone conclusion that they will qualify.
Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of where, that slim outside chance they'll be playing one more match against New Zealand or something, but
it's not necessary. I mean, if you're a football fan and Alabama is playing Kentucky, you know how that game's gonna finish, and this is the same thing. Costa Rica has been bad. I mean, I could see the U.S. basically decided to just bunker and walk out of there with a draw, and that would be acceptable to everybody. I hope they go for the win. I mean, it's more realistic. The more CONCACAF thing to happen would be if Canada somehow chokes in Panama, and the U.S. beats Costa Rica, and Canada somehow doesn't finish on top, which by all rights they should be. I'm just saying that's the more likely of 2 scenarios to happen. So yeah, I'm not concerned, and honestly, fans should just watch the game and enjoy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Tommy, what were your reactions to the matches?
Well, the one in Mexico, as Jose said, they were the better team, and if it's not for Pulisic kicking it right to the keeper, point blank range, it's 1-0. I still haven't figured out what he was doing. That should have been 2-0. That should have been a victory. So, yeah, I mean, Greg's pulling the right strings, and he had the right lineup. Everybody was all worried about going with the second stream, and that game, if I'm recalling, Kellen Acosta was just magnificent, right? And so was Reyna. I mean, there's so many reasons to be positive about the U.S. team. I never really paid much attention to Reyna, and now I've seen him play these games, and wow, he is so good. And he's still coming back from injury. He's not 100%, so that's why he came off the bench, right?
No,
Mexico.
Actually, there was a bug, like
the last game.
On that game there was a bug that was going around.
But in Mexico, I think he's still recovering from an injury. He had an.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah. So and then Panamanian game, I mean, like they got the PK. I thought the second PK was a little iffy, but I think that's something that the USA is going to have to learn, that one day it's going to come back to haunt them. That hands to the face, whatever. It's so picky now with the VAR. I don't know. It seems like they lose their discretion that what's a penalty, what's not. I thought the first one definitely was. The second one, it didn't look like a penalty to me, but credit to the plan, the FC Dallas plan.
I think it was a penalty.
Okay.
I just say I think it was a penalty, but we're so used to not getting those penalty calls.
Maybe
calls
so.
in CONCACAF. And I think that's by CONCACAF standards, it's not a penalty.
But the success against Panama goes all the way back to Lucci from coaching up Jesus Ferreira. It goes back to Nico Estevez being the coach and bringing in Arriola and Ferreira and having them play together. They were on the same page. Why is that? Because they play for Dallas, right?
They run the same system.
Yeah, and then you look at Greg Burkhalter. It's just the way he uses the bench. I mean, he's not just playing the same lineup. In past years, I want to say that it was always the same lineup and maybe a couple of changes here and there, but that's not the case anymore. And it's going to be a different lineup Wednesday, and I think we're going to see Pepe. So.
Yeah, I just want to point out that the MLS players that a lot of Euro people are all complaining about. This is where you should be playing them. You should be playing them in CONCACAF fixtures because they are familiar with a lot of the opponents. There's a lot of familiarity. They are more likely to play against some of their opponents than the players that are in Europe. So from a coach's standpoint, he's got to take that into consideration and say, hey, Kellen Acosta has played against a lot of these guys. Walker Zimmerman has played against a lot of these guys. Okay, yes, they're in MLS, but they have experience against a lot of the players in CONCACAF, and I think that's very valuable for a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it wasn't. Go ahead.
Well, I think something we're sort of circling around, and United States fans are real picky, we're real touchy about our lineups, and we have a lot of opinions, and even about a guy like Paul Arriola and stuff, and whether he belongs or not, which I think he does. I think he's shown he's just a great asset to a roster, but one thing that's both good and bad is that I think in our pool of players, unlike maybe some other France, Germany, the top teams, or even some Argentina, Brazil, like we don't have the quote unquote superstar. We have a whole cluster of players that are all in the same range. So that's what's been amazing to see is getting good minutes out of, whether DeAndre Edlin, Reggie. We got so many right backs. The coach Berhalter said that outside backs is one of our secret weapons, that we just have such depth there. Other than Pulisic, we've got just lots of options and lots of guys. Maybe Weston is in that category too.
I think he is.
Yeah, but you don't have a huge drop-off after that. And we've seen that time and time again, that you can get some real quality in this setup out of Kellen Acosta. Musa is good. It creates the downside is that it creates problems for the coach of how do you pick the right set of players that you're going to get the most out of, and you're hoping guys are in form or not, and so it creates some issues. Because like Joe Scally, we've got a lot of these guys that are up and coming that are playing against good teams and are going to be assets come World Cup time. But it does make things difficult when you need someone to step in and just perform. But you got this whole number of guys, any of which could perform if you just plug them in at the right time and they're in the right frame of mind. So it's a real challenge, I think, from Berhalter, but it's something we also haven't had for a long time in the U.S. program. Just a glut of really promising players getting good experience, but the coach's job is then to figure out how to narrow it down. And put the right set on the field for each situation. So we'll see. I think that's. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I do.
I agree. I also think that all the U.S. fans, they for some reason don't take into consideration that all these players are playing in different systems in their respective clubs, and so there's some players that, as good as they are, and I mean, sure they're studs. The coach isn't just gonna start them for the sake of starting. He's got to bring them in, and they got to show that they understand what he wants from them, and they got to earn his trust. And I understand everyone's issue with Berhalter, this and that, but at the end of the day, he's still the guy making the calls. And if he's not starting somebody, it's because during practice or whatever, he's got a guy who he's seeing basically make mistakes. No matter how talented he is, at the end of the day, a coach wants to see, his wishes carried out on the field, and some of these players that people are like, well, why does he keep calling them back? Because he's comfortable with them, and every coach has that. I mean, so far I think Greg's getting the results, and I swear if this team miraculously went all the way to the World Cup and won it, there would still be people out there saying that, oh, we won the World Cup despite our coach. The players did it. So that's that's always going to be there.
I was really impressed with De La Torre in the left wing. I thought in the midfield he was just excellent, and I never saw him play before. And we didn't have Weston McKennie, right? So I mean, Greg Bertal was like down one man, and then the right back bringing in more. I mean, my gosh! I mean, the U.S. has really got a grip on their talent and know where they can pull from. We never really saw that in the past. It was always pull from Europe. I don't see Europe anymore.
I think people need to see on the bright side and say, hey, if you think there's more talent out there that isn't being called up, you have to think of as the fact that, hey, we're getting these results despite that. So it's a good thing, as we go forward into the World Cup, to know that there is still more talent and better possible lineups, and hopefully we'll start getting them.
Yeah, because as I was thinking through the game, finishing the game last night, watching it, just thinking, gosh, the downside, again, it's a good thing to have a good pool of talent and players that are still emerging and still over the next 6 months are going to be making cases that they need to be on that World Cup roster. I think Paxton Pomykal is one of those guys that if he...
Oh, I absolutely agree.
He would be an asset to that squad and give them another look in that midfield. But gosh, that midfield is swamped with talent, and someone who's really talented is not going to be on that roster come December.
I think that's the biggest concern for American fans is that that Berhalter is somehow going to punish players for not having partaken in the qualification process. I think that's the biggest concern, is like, oh, the team that we have, there's other players that we can call in that we feel will be ready to, help this team significantly when we're in the World Cup. And there's people that are seriously concerned that, hey, this manager may simply choose to reward those that were already here and tell the rest. I know. I'm just saying that's the concern from some people. It's like, and they have a right to worry about that. Of course, they don't have the highest opinion of Berhalter, but I think I'm looking forward to see who else gets in and gets minutes.
More. I never seen him play before. So the reason, Reggie being out and losing the other guy, also where does guy Moore come from? So I think it's whoever's.
Moore's been playing in Spain, and he's actually connected to FC Dallas, by the way. So he's actually considered as one of the FC Dallas guys. But he's been playing in La Liga, so I mean he's one of these players that has been playing at a high level. I don't know that he's a regular starter anymore, but besides that, he's played higher level opposition and he looked up to the challenge. And he's actually played before and looked good before. So I was not surprised that he did good.
But to Nathan's point, Paxton plays with Arriola and Ferreira, right? I would like to see that,
Yeah.
I would just like to see Paxton called up and given a shot. I mean, I
always said the same thing about
who he lines up against as long as he plays. And Hollingshead is one of those players that will probably never get called up because he simply doesn't fit what Berhalter wants to do. And that's what I'm saying is there's some very talented individuals out there that Berhalter simply sees as not being a fit for what he wants to do, and that's why they're not getting their, the minutes and call-ups. I think when you have the bigger camps, you should still bring them in and give them a shot to prove to you that they can pick it up. So I think that's what all we want is, hey, there's certain players, there's so much talent that, it's hard. I think it's going to be hard. It's harder. We have more talent, and like you said, I don't think there's a big difference between certain talents. I know people feel that there is, and so as a manager, it's like you have to determine which player you think is going to be best suited with the core group too. Mind you, people forget that certain athletes butt heads, so you got to look at the locker room also. You want a unit that's cohesive, And are you going to bring in a player who doesn't know anybody, doesn't get along with anybody, who's just here? Sure, maybe they're professional, but maybe they don't really have a bond. That's another thing that you got to take into consideration that we don't get to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was good. It was a good weekend for US Soccer. I know we still going to have a little bit of anxiety about Wednesday night.
Not me.
But good, not Jose. I don't know, maybe
not
some
me.
of our...
I have not had the anxiety that everybody else has had. Everyone's been freaking out. I mean, let's face it, Panama in the U.S., they're minnows. If it was in Panama, I'd be worried, but it wasn't in Panama. It was here. I never doubted that the U.S. would get. Mind you, I'm not saying that I thought they would win 5-1, but I had no doubt that they would get a W against them, and I'm confident that they can go down there and get at least a draw against Costa Rica. In all honesty.
Mm-hmm. Credit to Walker Zimmerman. He's just playing. His play lately has put, in my mind, him into one of those like locks. If he stays healthy, if he keeps playing like this, he's just been so good for that team and such a rock back there.
And he's been what, MLS defender of the year 2 years running. I mean, this guy is basically the kind of player you want. Okay, so he's not playing in Europe, but he's basically still playing at a high level here in MLS. And you don't see a drop off when he steps up in the higher, against higher level competition. That's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his heading and jumping up and presence in the box on set pieces is just valuable.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, good. Well, all right. Well, we got more to look ahead to. Another match tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Wednesday night.
Wednesday.
As they travel down to Costa Rica and get the job done down there. So it should be fun. So let's turn our attention back to North Texas, with North Texas SC opened its inaugural season at home at Choctaw Stadium against Minnesota United FC 2. It was our first chance to really see these youngsters, to see the mix of players, see how they're going to play. And despite some shaky moments here and there where their youth showed, they look great. 3-1 win, opening goal from captain Derek Waldeck, who we'll hear from in just a few moments. And then 2 goals from an academy kid, Tariq Scott, right?
Tariq Scott, yes.
Oh,
that for some reason, MLS Next Pro had him down as Scott Suteric. I don't know. I thought it was weird, but they finally corrected it. By the way, I saw it today. They fixed it.
A good mix of players, some new faces, and things. You just got a sense of the energy of this team, of what Coach Ka is asking of them and expecting of them, and we'll hear from him in just a moment too. So, but an opening win is always good at home to get the season going, and it looks like it's going to be a fun season to watch these kids play. Watch them do their thing. Watch them grow, right?
Yeah. I want to actually make some observations on MLS Next Pro. I watched as many games as I could get in. I actually watched every game. I watched the Friday game, and then I watched every game Saturday. Not so much Sunday. I watched one game, I think, on Sunday. But I want to point out that not a single home team lost. It's going to be very hard to get results on the road in MLS Next Pro, because the home teams, if the senior team is playing or playing at home that week, they can simply loan down as many senior players as they want to. You saw that with our next week's opponent, Tacoma. 8 senior players on their roster, on their starting 11, and the 3 Seattle players were all men, 22, 24, 26, and they were playing Real Salt Lake, the Monarchs, who are closer to what North Texas does. They're a team that'll play a mixture of teenagers. They had 5 or 6 teenagers and 5 or 6 adults. That's closer to what North Texas does. Seattle they basically they played 2 teenagers on their starting lineup, and one of them was Danny Leyva. So, I mean, 118 games of MLS experience on the pitch. So, and that's the thing that we saw with MLS Next Pro is teams were all over the map. Some teams like Minnesota United started 7 players from their senior roster. Some teams started, academy kids, and the results were all over the map, and it was very tough to get any points on the road. The only teams that did it, by the way, are really, really good teams. In New England Revolution, got 2 points in the first ever shootout against NYC FC, and then the other one was I can't think of who the other one was, but I think it was Sporting Kansas City, which another team that I think is very strong. They got a point against Colorado. The answer is yes, and I'm going to explain that to you guys. And I'm kind of sad that Ismail isn't here to argue with me, because I keep telling everyone that North Texas is actually one of the best teams in MLS Next Pro, and that's a team. Their home field advantage is significant. Only 3 losses in the last 3 years at Choctaw Stadium. That's against better opposition week in and week out than what they're going to face here. But on paper, if you would have looked at North Texas's team and then looked at Minnesota United's team, on paper, Minnesota United had the better team. They had 7 senior team members. They had Ja'Cory Hayes. They had
Callum Montgomery.
Hayes and Callum Montgomery, for crying out loud, in their lineup. And on paper, it looked like a stronger team, but that's not the reality. The reality is that Minnesota, a lot of their coaches joined just within the week. Some of their players hadn't actually played with the team and basically came down and here you go, play with this team. And there's going to be a lot of teams like that in Major League Next in Next Pro that are not real teams. It's basically, a lot of them. There's I can tell you right now that as hard it is to get points on the road, there are only 3 teams in the Western Conference that have good enough teams, strong rosters, strong coaching, that could walk into Choctaw and legitimately take 3 points from North Texas. And those 3 are St. Louis, which,
right.
It's basically, they got like 8 men on their roster that are going to be playing in MLS next year. Sporting Kansas City has a solid, strong U23 type team. And then the third team is Tacoma, which is the same way. They've got a good U23 level team, and Seattle's not afraid to send a lot of players, especially at home. Those are the 3 teams that could walk into North Texas and potentially walk out with 3 points. Everybody else will basically be lucky to get a point at North Texas. And mind you, North Texas is one of those teams that I would say is good enough to go into your house and walk out with 3 points. I'm not saying they will, because it is tough to win on the road. And the difference is the academy, it's the integration. You would think that all the teams across the league do it, but that's not the case. Only the best academies do it. Your Philadelphia Union does it. Miami is doing it. FC Dallas does it. Where you say, oh, hey, Tariq Scott, he's a U17 kid or U19 kid. Well, he's really like a U15 or U16. I mean, he's like 16 years old, but he's played with North Texas. He's played with U19s. The integration means that the academy kids that walk into the starting lineup, whether they're starters or reserves, know the system. They run it over and over. The full integration means there's not that huge drop off. Since FC Cincinnati brings an academy kid into their starting lineup, there's a drop off. That doesn't happen with North Texas, and you're going to have a lot of more consistency. They're a true team, is what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of talented teams in Next Pro that are not teams yet. They won't gel for about half a season at the earliest.
Well, that's a good segue then to kind of hear from head coach of North Texas SC, Paul Mudaka. He's a former MLS guy. Won a championship last season with Pacific up in the Canadian Premier League.
Yep.
Yeah, and I got to ask him some questions. There are only a couple of reporters on the call, including one from Canada. And it was fun to ask him questions and just get a sense of his energy and why FC Dallas chose this guy. And let me tell you, by the end of the call, I was like, man, this guy fits with FC Dallas culture. And he is an exciting hire. And it raises the possibility that, hey, maybe Berhalter steps down after the World Cup this year to do something else, and Nico gets called back up, or all these kinds of scenarios. And we've got another guy waiting here that's getting seasoned and is going to have some possibilities. Of course, he could go somewhere else if he has success. But let's just listen to a little bit. First, I asked him. I asked him about these questions that Jose you actually gave me. One about how they're going to integrate tactics, and then I asked him about academy kids. And so we're going to have those first two questions, and then hear a little bit how I asked him sort of how they were going to approach what fans should look for when they see North Texas play. So we'll pause in between one and then before we do the final one. But let's just listen to Coach Ka and get a sense of his energy.
Hey, Nathan. For me, when I came into this role, there was a long discussions between me and Andre Zanota and Matt Denny about the style that we want to implement, which will also be closely to the first team, because obviously the NTSC role is to facilitate plays that can be easily adaptable in the first team, same as when players come down from the first team eventually they have to need games, so they understand the similar roles that needs to be implemented. Obviously, we discuss all the time, me and Nico, we have a great communication line with their staff and the understanding of what we all want to achieve here together with the organization, because that's also very much important that for us to create a pathway where young players can get minutes, also develop, so that they can be ready in case the first team calls or they're ready for college or anything. So for us is to create a pathway with the NTSC.
Great. Well, because that builds up to my next question, which is just sort of how much playing time can we expect for academy players this season?
Well, for me, anybody that knows me is like, for me, it's not about your title. It's about what you can do, right? Age, we don't care about the age. If a young player is good enough to be in the starting 11, he will get his opportunity. Because I always build off training, what you show in training, and then the tactical decisions that we're going to make. So that would be the two main core for the academy boys. But the academy boys that have been training with us has been fantastic. I've been very pleased with their attitude. I've been pleased with their approach to the game, their willingness to learn, which is very important for me dealing with young players, as well as giving them the confidence to know that they can go out there and perform. So all the academy players, plus the signed players we have, they're all battling for minutes, and they may be in case of situations where the first team players will come down, and obviously they will have the priority to play because Nico will need them. But for us is our team is our team, and we will give minutes to players that show every day that they're capable of being at the level, whether you're 16 or you're 20.
We'll pause there before we get to the final thing, because I asked him after that too about the rule changes with MLS Next Pro, which is no draws but shootouts, right? So so it's gonna be. So I asked him, and he's not a fan of it. He's just not. He says it's not. For him, he thinks, it's just like fighting for that draw on the road. There's a lot of pride in that. To you learn a lot as a soccer player, but then to have to go up and you miss a penalty kick, and then the loss is on one single player and not on a collective team. Like he thinks it's not so good for development. He's probably right about that, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
We'll dry. Anyway, I see why they did it though, because if you look up the teams that got the 2 points from the draw, PK's draw, the headlines is, New England wins on the road, because they got those 2 points. So that's the headline there. And Colorado gets its first win. No, it was a draw. It was a draw against Sporting Kansas City. You got a extra point, but that's the headlines, and so it makes it so that teams that are in draws, there's even the team that went to the PKs can claim a victory, and the team that didn't, they can still say, hey, we got a point on the road, and people are used to that. So it's a little weird, but
that is
I can
weird.
see why
so
they did it.
I guess I glossed over that because I thought there wasn't even going to be a point. It was like someone's going to end up with 3 points and someone's going to end up with 0. But no. So
the PK is for an extra point. So the draw means you both get a point, and then whoever wins the PK gets an extra point. So if you look at the standings, you'll see that New England Revolution has 2 points off a draw, and Colorado has 2 points off a draw. And honestly, the teams that got the draws on the road are the teams that are teams that I think are playoff teams. New England Revolution is a very strong team. I remember them from last year. They play a very solid, compact defense, and they have a really great goalkeeper, and they basically dare you to beat them, and then they basically are counting. They have a couple of players, really good attacking players, that they're counting on to basically create a little magic and get them the W if necessary. So not a sexy team, but an effective team. And same thing with Sporting Kansas City, which got the draw at Colorado. I mean, I looked, those guys have like 26 players signed to their roster or something like that. And most of them are, college aged. It's a solid team with a solid experience. So yeah, it's very amusing. It's very amusing. And honestly, I think North Texas has a good shot at getting a draw at Tacoma, even though Tacoma is a team that is built to beat a team like North Texas. There's going to be real men playing there against the college kids. And the teams that North Texas traditionally has had trouble against are teams that are mature teams, physical teams that can stay compact on defense and basically get like a set piece, because let's face it, as fast and young as North Texas is, when you're in the box, that man muscle and strength and size, it comes forward, and so teams like Tacoma, they can basically, sit back, try to play for set pieces, try to play for stuff like that, and they have the maturity to play a disciplined game, which you saw Minnesota lack the discipline. I mean, I saw them basically trying to beat up the kids and trying to play, but Minnesota didn't have the discipline because they weren't a real team. Tacoma used to play in the USL Championship, and so their system is set. They're going to be tough, and they're going to try to grind a win out. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 0-0 going into like the 70th minute, and then you'll see basically that fouling and that grinding start to wear on the North Texas kids. And so the danger there is that we allow a late goal or two, and what could be a 0-0 or 1-1 draw suddenly turns into 2-goal loss. So North Texas has to score really early, by the way. They need to score as quickly as possible and force Tacoma to play into the more of pass style. By the way, one last thing. In USL League One, they had a nickname for North Texas, the North Texas attack, and that was Death by 1,000 Passes. And I'm glad we saw some of that. We saw, we didn't see much of it in the last, as often, in the last 2 years as we did in the first year. But we got a glimpse of that with Pa's team making a lot of passes, a lot of possession, and North Texas is one of the few teams that can do that can play that kind of, sort of like a tiki-taka style. And it is draining for other teams to basically maintain that. There's only a few teams that can do it. And fortunately for us, they're over on the East Conference. So, so just so you guys keep
Tommy,
forward.
You're muted.
Yeah, you're muted, Tommy. I could hear you saying trying to say
Sorry,
something.
yeah. I was asking about the Parker at left back, and I think Ferreira's brother played well. Can you have any feedback on those
Yeah,
guys?
well, I thought Parker looked great. I think Ferreira actually didn't play well. I think he was average at best. It should
Isn't he
be
young?
noted that he is young, so I'm not holding that against him. I mean, he did start. He wasn't a weakness. I'm just saying he didn't stand out. And what stands out is that when he was replaced, he was actually replaced by Tariq Scott, who came in and basically changed the face of the game. And I want to point out, because I was one of those people that was concerned that they weren't going to play the kids, is all 5 of the substitutes that came in were teenagers. Baker's an academy kid. He came in. Smith is an academy kid. He came in. Colin Smith is 18, even though he's homegrown, but he's still 18-year-old. That Lacerda kid, the kid they got from Cal United, he's 19. He was that really big kid with the number 6 shirt. He was massive. I'm like, who's that midfielder up there? He looks like a center back. He was out there, and I forget who the 5th guy was, but it was also another kid, and I was very excited they played at least 3 academy kids and 2 young players. That's what you want to see, and that's what you will continue to see from North Texas.
And I think, I mean, this is what we want to see, those guys get minutes, so we can see what Ferreira is going to do, and if he's going to follow in his dad and his older brother's footsteps. And I thought one thing is Antonio Carrera, or the goalkeeper, was just great.
Right,
you could just see why this kid was a bright
he
future.
Balled out, man. He had like 6
I meant to ask about him too. Good.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, we saw it all. We saw that the back line was shaky. And honestly, if Carrera doesn't stand on his head, maybe we walk out of there with a 3-3 draw, because that was an issue the last year. We had Sanchez and the kid from the draft pick kid. I don't want to mispronounce his name, but they both were very inconsistent, and there was games where they allowed 3 and 4 goals. And if Carrera can play like this on a regular basis, it'll make up for the fact that the back line is the weak point of the team. The midfield has played together for a long time, and the reserves that they're going to bring in are going to be academy kids who are familiar with the system. Same thing with the attack. The attack and the midfield are the strength of this team. The back line, 4 new starters: Pope, Parker, Nice, and the kid from Canada, and of course Carrera. So that's where it's going to be shaky for a while. And I just want to say that there's very few teams that can actually take advantage of that. That's the great thing about the team playing in MLS Next Pro, is that very few teams are geared to be able to punish North Texas for that. And so they'll have a little bit, they'll have to like mid-season to get it patched up and figured out.
Well, let's listen to just a little more of Coach Kaw's energy here. I asked him about kind of what to expect for the weekend and, for fans to come out. And so here he is.
It's going to be great. As we all know, it's a new league, which is fantastic. I think it was there prior, but I think now people are taking it, people are advancing it better, because when I came in 2013, it was the Reserve League, right? It was MLS Reserve League. So now it's back to MLS Next Pro, which is fantastic for the young talents that every club is growing, and in North America, football is growing. So we, North Texas, we're going to play our brand of football. Obviously, we're facing Minnesota too, but we are playing, we're going to focus on us, because I do believe that focusing on what we're doing is the most important thing. We want to play exciting football. We want to be on the front foot, and we're playing every game to win. That's just who we are. That is the nature of my team, and that's the nature of me. So hopefully we can put on a show for you, for the fans, which is important, and therefore we telling every fans, come support, because it's a fantastic opportunity for people down in Arlington to see a young team, come to flotation this year. So the more fans, the better.
Yeah, the more fans, the better, right? I'm excited about just his energy. I think he really does fit the FC Dallas kind of way, and certainly appreciated Eric Quill. Was a great leader for a great head coach. But you got to move on sometimes to do other things, and so here he comes, and it seems like the team's not going to skip a beat at all.
I like the way he speaks. Very confident. Very confident.
Yeah, and his team plays, very confident too, which is a reflection on him. I mean, under Quill, the team passed a lot, but they didn't pass with the aggressiveness that you're seeing from this team. This team was very aggressive, very prodding, very, if they lost the ball, they quickly pounced. And I think the last 2 goals came off of quick turnovers, which I was saying, I think in the week before that, off the counter, and people are like, oh, well, this is not a countering team. Well, I mean the quick counter, once they force a turnover, the team will spring into attack mode. And that's what I was trying to explain. And that's what you saw from Scott. It was turnover, boom, punish. And North Texas, that's what they're built for. I don't think Quill took advantage of that, or maybe his teams basically just let him down because they got the shot opportunity, just couldn't finish them. But you see this team is that kind of team. Any team that wants to play an open game against North Texas will eat multiple goals because this team is built to punish you on those turnovers. You do not want to turn the ball over in your own third of the field against North Texas. USL teams understood this. They made sure that they did not turn the ball over against North Texas. They forced North Texas to try to break them down. And I don't think this league is prepared to deal with North Texas. I don't think North Texas is the best team in the league. But I'm saying there's true teams in this league, and there are teams that won't be true teams for another year or two that are learning. That's where this team is ahead of those teams. There's only a handful of teams that are true teams. Tacoma is one of them, and that's why I'm concerned about them next week.
Well, great. Well, let's just kick over a little bit to hear a little bit from Derek Waldeck. Congratulations on his first goal of the season. He is, what is more interesting, one of the older players on the team. He is the captain.
Yes.
He's been there a little bit longer than most, so he has a sense of continuity and leadership. And
he's the first 3-year player on the team. North Texas used to have a hard 2 years to prove yourself, or you're gone. That's why Arturo was gone after 2 years. That's why Diamond's gone after 2 years. And this last season, they had a change and said, okay, maybe we should keep some of these players longer than 2 years. And Waldeck is the first one.
Yeah, so it's good. So it's good to hear from him. So we'll just maybe listen to the first question or two that I lifted from. The first one is just about the penalty rule change and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to expect, to be completely honest with you on that front. In terms of other teams around the league, I know for us, it's not going to change anything. We're going to be looking each and every game to pick up all 3 points. We're not going to be content with 1. We're not going to be content with 2. The goal is going to stay to pick up all 3 points, regardless of whether we're on the road or at home. So yes, it might change the complexion of the last few minutes of a game. If you're trailing, if the game's tied, if you're ahead, how that plays out. But at the end of the day, like I said, we're playing to win. We're not going to be playing for shootouts. That's not who we are and who we want to be. So we're going to do our best just to win it in regulation. And if we have to go there, then yes, we're going to do our part to be prepared, to put ourselves in the best position to win each and every shootout. Because, at the end of the day, those are valuable points. If you can pick up an extra few points from shootouts, if you were to draw 5 games and you pick up 3 extra points, that's an extra win essentially on your record. So yes, we'll be prepared as well as we can be, but definitely won't be looking to draw games. We're going into each game trying to win.
What do you feel like your goals are as a soccer player? You have you've been with the team longer than some of the new faces and things, so you have sort of a natural leadership role in that. You've seen some continuity. You're one of those continuity pieces, provide some stability. So just what do you want to see coming out of this year as you continue your development as a soccer player?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me personally, it's just all about that 1% growth each and every day. I have an opportunity every single day that I get to step on the field to train, to push myself, to get out of my comfort zone, and just to challenge myself, frankly, to be the best player I can be each and every day. And I know I have aspirations to make it at the next level, to the MLS level, USL Championship, whatever is next in the years coming. I want to push myself on to another level, but that's not something that just happens overnight. That only happens if I'm willing personally to put in the work each and every day, to commit to having the right habits, doing those little things that will just make me 1% better each day, because that will add up over time. And I'm hopeful that can help push me on onto the next level individually. And then it's also about challenging myself as a leader, and as a human being. The game is a lot more than just what you can do with your feet. It's about who you are as a human being, how I can challenge the guys around me in the locker room. And, my goal is that I have a lasting impact on whatever guys I get to share the locker room with this year, that wherever they move on to, wherever I might move on to in the future, that this is a group that everybody remembers, and that hopefully I can be a leader that guys remember as someone who they would like to go into battle with each week, and that would encourage them, challenge them in the right ways, and just try to pull the very best from each and every player in our locker room.
Yeah, just a little taste there, Derek. Good guy. Seems like he's really focused. I also asked him just about
scored the first goal too.
And he scored the first goal. Good for him. And I asked him about just the sense of what makes FC Dallas Academy so special right now, a special place, an enticing place to be, is because of guys like Ricardo Pepi. It's because those opportunities like Justin Shea to get minutes at that level, but then to have that pathway to Europe. And he, of course, he just acknowledged that is a huge thing, and that it's a reality check, because a lot of players just want to go straight to Europe, but it doesn't always work out that way. So these are always opportunities to make that impact, and it can happen here just as well as in other places. So really cool, really good guy. Really glad to see him get that opening goal, and I'm proud too that he's just willing to name his own aspiration to make it to the next level, because I do think if he keeps playing this way, it will make it difficult for FC Dallas not to find some way to keep him around and give him more opportunities. A solid player for this team and a solid leader.
Yes, and I want to point out that I'm glad he brought up USL Championship, because honestly, that's where he projects right now. He's basically a fringe MLS player at best, but mind you, he's a player that can come up and play with the senior team when they're short on bodies, and so there's always a chance that he'll impress to the point where they actually take a chance in him. But the truth is he's probably more a USL Championship level player at the moment, and I'm glad he understands that, because that's something we're not talking about, is that North Texas players are starting to populate the USL Championship and USL League One. You've got players signing left and right with USL League One teams. Cesar and Molina, I think, are both over in Fort Madison. You got Gibran Rios showed up in Rochester, but then you've got several players at USL Championship level, and I think that's where he's currently at. But as long as he keeps getting minutes with the senior team, there's always a chance that he'll impress to the point where they say, okay, you know what, we need you. So I'm glad that he understands that he needs to, when that opportunity is granted to him, he's basically at least giving himself a shot. And mind you, he could also trial for the right team and find minutes there. A team like St. Louis or North Carolina, Inter Miami. There's teams out there that are short on bodies that could use a good, solid bench piece, and he would at least be that. So I'm not saying he's absolutely USL. I'm just saying right now, that's probably his level, is USL Championship. But I'm glad that he's still trying to push himself higher.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right. Well, look, let's start to wrap up the show here. But before we do that, let's look ahead. This weekend, FC Dallas is back in action. Play an afternoon game in Chicago in the revamped Chicago squad. some good talent there now. A team that's looking a lot better than they have been in the past couple of years. So it's going to be a tough match, and our first chance to really see. Well, I guess not the first chance, but another chance for us to see this team, how they're going to do on the road, and especially see Velasco again, to see how he's developing with another couple weeks of practice under his belt with this team. What are our predictions? Yeah.
I was going to say, I predict that Ferreira and Arriola won't be starting. They'll be getting a break, and we'll see O'Brien on the other wing and Hara up top. I'm pretty sure that will be the case. But I think we get the win. I would see FC Dallas winning 2-0, 2-1.
I think I'll be happy with a draw. So now, if we had Arriola and Ferreira starting, then I would give us a good chance at walking out with 3 points, because Chicago doesn't have that home field advantage. But they are a solid team, and the concern is that, Ferreira, Arriola, and Shun, probably won't be available. So we'll be a little light. And I think if they can go in there and get a point, that'd be great. But like I said, Chicago is playing much better. I'm glad that it's in a grass field. So I think FC Dallas has a shot. Like Tommy says, I'm glad he's confident with the 3 points. They have a shot, but the concern is that because they're missing several starters, the opportunities may not get, may be there. We may be ruining the fact that they leave a couple of goals on, and walk out of there with a draw instead of a win.
Yeah, I mean, I think a draw would be a good thing, especially if we just continue to see the team get stronger, continue to grow together. A lot of it depends on this Wednesday night thing. Is if Berhalter may decide to rest Arriola, bring him off the bench, and Jesus, and so they might be a little fresher. We'll have to see how. I'm not holding my breath on that, but we'll just have to see how those things go.
Ferreira played the whole game, and he was just gassed at the end. Did you see him just fall to the ground?
Yeah.
And he was having those cramps right before the game ended. He just fell down. He played great. But I can see him getting a rest. He's not gonna. I don't think he'll play Wednesday, and maybe he will be back for Saturday. But I really think he needs a break.
I think. Regardless of the result, I'm just watching to see the team grow, watching to see if they, even if they happen to lose, it's how you lose. Did you look bad losing on the road? I mean, Lucci's teams would go on the road and just play god awful. I don't want to see that. I want to see.
Is Sean back?
Huh?
Is Sean back? Sean back?
I don't know. I don't know that he is. He should be though. But I'm just saying. You saw the team was night and day. When they were at home, they were dangerous. When they were on the road, they were just lethargic and they just looked really bad on the road. So that's what I'm looking for is to see if we see a strong play like they had against New England and hopefully build on that. Because that's what we want to see. It'd be nice to have a team that looks just as good on the road as they do at home. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I appreciate all the comments tonight. Everyone checking in on us, and it was a good weekend of soccer for FC Dallas fans and for U.S. fans, and we're looking forward to more in the coming weeks. So, Jose, Tommy, thank you for your time this evening. Of course, check us out.
Thanks, Tommy.
Check us out on the subscribe on the podcast if you can't catch us live, and you'll get a audio version of this available to you wherever you get podcasts. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.